it is an interesting journey because it's so painful. One of our primal fears are the fear of banishment, the fear of not belonging. Because we're humans, we want to connect, looking at what you do want in your life, letting go what doesn't serve you, being really clear on what your vision is. Who do you want to be? Who do you want to be surrounded by? And just live in integrity of that. You go through that process of realizing, like you did, man, and like I have, is that you're okay on your own.
Yeah, exactly.
You're okay.
Yeah.
And then when you know that you're okay on your own and you know your values, like, oh man, I'm fucking dangerous now. Because it doesn't matter if I lose my partner. It doesn't matter if I lose these mates. I'm fucking good. And I'm going to manifest more in my life.
Do you want to experience the limitless nature of your sexuality and a fulfilled and respectful intimate relationship? Can you hear the world's desperate calling for conscious, heart-led men to defeat their fear? Then welcome to the Heart of a King podcast, where you will find the clarity, guidance, and tools that will empower you to authentically live your masculine potential. Welcome to today's new episode. Today with a guest from Australia, Blase Grinner. He's a husband, he's a father of three, and he is, in my opinion, one of the most authentic and most powerful men in men's work today. He's running men's retreats in Australia and an international men's group. Also, he has been one of the founding fathers of Conscious Man Brotherhood, together with one of our dear friends, Kelly Gardner.
Dude, thank you so much for having me, man.
There was a couple of your videos that I looked at, and one of them was about our self-worth as men and this whole topic of worthiness. Because we get so conditioned in, you do all this stuff, you create so much value for all these people, and that's how you affirm that you are worthy. And if that stops, then there's this crisis that happens. You called it like the pat on the back, if that goes, So I would love for you to share a bit on, if we as men face this challenge, what's like a key point to shift that?
Self-acknowledgement. Yeah, like self-acknowledgement. The thing that goes hand in hand with like lack of self-worth is this imposter syndrome. So it's like, are you able to stand in front of the mirror and look at yourself and say that I love you?
Yeah.
Usually if you're lacking self-worth, it's super uncomfortable and edgy to do that. And so just a simple tool is to look yourself in the mirror every morning and every night and say to yourself by a really beautiful deep eye gaze, I love you, bro.
Yeah.
And see what happens to the feedback within your nervous system and your own physical body, because your eyes are the gateway to your soul, and you can't lie to yourself.
Yes.
You can try to keep, like the mind can keep trying to lie to its soul, but eventually something's going to hit and crack, and then you're going to feel all these like emotions. And this is this thing about fathering that inner child within yourself. Excellent. Because all of that thing within you, that the validation and the pats on the back is just feeding that little boy that's inside you, that just wants love, that just wants his dad to hug him, that he wants his mum to hug him. Just that little boy, it's now as a man, it's our opportunity to love that little boy, but that is within us.
Yeah.
I remember one of my mates kicked me in the ass, bro. Something was going on, and I was just in one of these like low feelings of self-worth. And I'm like, oh man, I just want Melinda just to cuddle me, man, and just give me a hug. And he goes, why? I'm like, I just want just that nurture, bro. And he's like, she's not your fucking mum, bro. That's your partner.
Yeah.
Like, give yourself that fucking hug, dude. And I'm just like, oh, it hurts so bad. But I realized, and I reflected, I hadn't just stopped and acknowledged myself of how well I'm doing in life for like maybe 18 months, bro.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, so another tool is just to stop, write a list of everything that you have done in the past 6 months that you are proud of, big and small. The things that you want your partner to acknowledge, the things that you want your dad to acknowledge, the things that you want your mum to see, that you want society to see, that your friends to see, that no one has acknowledged. Write it down. Write it down. It's like, oh, I'm proud of that. And just watch it flow. And you want to supercharge that, go post it on Facebook. Go post it on your social media. And it's like, I'm proud of myself for this. And fucking claim it.
Yeah.
Like, claim it, man. Totally, get past the imposter syndrome. It's like, man. So within our men's circles and teams, we have this thing, man, and it's religious because of this whole thing of like when CMB stopped and
Yeah.
the pats on the back stopped. Like I consciously stopped it myself. I stepped away to have my third baby. All those pats on the back went. And my mind kept telling me I'm not doing enough for humanity. I'm not good enough. And it's just like, man, I was just allowing all of that external validation influence my identity and my worth as a man. And it
Yeah.
stopped. And I was just like, the mind was there. So every week, man, I'd stop and write myself a message of 2 paragraphs of what I was proud of for that last week. Again
Yeah.
and again and again, just had in my notes. And so we started doing that within men's teams, and we started celebrating ourselves more for the big every day, celebrating something that we're proud of and
Yeah.
celebrating these wins. And there's like, oh man, I've got so much to be happy about. I've got so much that I can like feel good about. And so it all comes back down to like gratitude, man. Like
Yeah.
having gratitude for the littlest things. Usually when we have low worth, we're not grateful for the little things within ourselves. We may be grateful for everything else around us externally,
Yeah.
but yeah. And I think Oscar Wilde said it the best, man. He's like, falling in love with oneself is the beginning of a lifelong romance. So especially for men,
Yeah.
I thought self-love was something a chick did, man. When I first heard self-love, like, oh yeah, that's what women do. And then I realized that I can't even look myself in the mirror and say I love you.
Hmm.
And it's like, wow, that's where my work is. There's just a few examples, though. I also want to add, usually that lack, it's also tied to something subconsciously that we're maybe having like holding suppressed shame and guilt around.
Hmm.
So we think because I did that in the past, I'm not worthy of love now. And so then it's like all those little pieces of advice that I gave you, like they're really good to get back into that pocket. But then you got to go do the shadow work too, and you got to go
Yeah,
figure
for
out these root
sure.
causes and unravel as well. And so
Yeah.
that's where men's work comes in handy, where you can have brothers to take you into those shadows and back out. And
Yeah.
yeah, man, the big one for me when I couldn't look at myself and say I love you, it was because I cheated in my past, man. I cheated on partners, and then I just thought I was just subconscious. I can't consciously remember ever telling myself this, but this is subconsciously. I was telling myself that I wasn't worthy of love because I did that on the past. So why? I didn't think that I was worthy of love or money or someone's time or their connection, and so I was sabotaging everything. That it came up in the mirror work, man. I just remember just like the tears, man. It took me months, man. So I was saying it 3 times in the morning, 3 times at night, every day. I love you 3 times. And then especially in the morning, I'd always finish with like, you got this, bro. Just like affirming myself about the day. And yeah, man, it took a couple of months for me to actually believe that I actually love myself. And so I hope that that
Yeah.
can just normalize it if you don't feel that for your listeners right now, that, yeah, man, it just remember at some stage in your life you did though.
Hmm.
Even if you can't remember, when you're a
Yeah.
baby, man, you loved it. When you're a kid, you loved yourself. There was a moment, man. We just got to come back to those moments and remember it.
Yeah, so powerful. I love that. And just recently I started doing that more again, and I feel how powerful it is. Like the mirror work. You know, there was something that was blocking me for a long time to do this, and maybe there's someone listening right now that's the same for you. This is actually like my nature. I'm a Leo, and usually I have this energy of self-love and all that. In my childhood, that was very suppressed, like a lot of that, my expression and of how I just am, how loud and expressive I wasn't. There's this thing that happened that I was so not wanting to be arrogant because I also wanted to be connected with people. My fear was when I would be the guy that really celebrates himself so much and shows himself so much love and appreciation, that I would become kind of like a arrogant narcissist type of person. You know, like showing myself this full-on self-love has nothing to do with narcissism or arrogance or whatever. Not at all. I've been learning, of course, how to really hold my inner child and hold my emotions and all of that. But this part of really celebrating one's wins, oneself, yeah, that is a big one for me still. And just like I really feel the progress when I get to do it, you know, and to actually take time out to do this, to be like, you know, this is so important to be busy, to do this, to help all these other people and do this and that. But this is so important. I'm realizing even deeper now to really prioritize that and have it as a non-negotiable on a schedule.
Bro, you've hit the nail on the head, man, because there's a lot of leaders that forget to do this because they lead and they're doing it for so many people that they actually forget about themselves.
Yeah.
And this was me. I just forgot about doing it for myself. I'm doing it for everyone else.
Yeah.
But I forgot to do it for myself. That's why, like I was saying, like 6 years, like I've been in the men's team, whether I'm leading it, whether I'm in a paid one, whether it's my men's team or someone else's men's team, to have that camaraderie where it's that leveling up again and again and again. What we love to celebrate in my men's team is our awarenesses. So we look at like the man that we are and the man that we want to become. And so just a really quick example might be, a man may be like yelling at his kids a lot. So we teach him how to like do emotional regulation, teach him these tools and techniques to like to be able to catch that. And so at the end of the day, if he caught himself not yelling at his kids, fucking celebrate that, dude. That's huge. Man, that is massive, bro. If you didn't yell at your kids and you were able to like process that emotion, not suppress it and feel it, dude, that's huge, bro. And so having another man was like, and so it's beautiful because when you celebrate that and it's reflected from men that you trust, you get a dopamine hit. And so dopamine's addictive. So why not get addicted to these things that are leveling you up as a man, that are awarenesses, that are gains of like emotional intelligence and like these amazing things. Get addicted to that celebration. And then eventually you've got to let go of that addiction of like the validation of other people. But why not get addicted to that rather than alcohol? Or cigarettes or pornography. like let's stack the wins like that, like day after day after day after day. So yeah, man, it's like I'm surrounding yourself with men that can mirror to you, reflect to you, and encourage and support you and call you forward, and then call you forward pertaining to your own value systems, not their own, but like to your values, to your vision. Like so important, man, in this day.
Yeah, totally. I agree. Yeah, and for me in the past, I used to always go to a big rave like once a year in the US in Vegas, EDC, and I used to go there, you know, just really like celebrate the fuck out of life and be like really, goodness, man, this is how you came to grow in this past year. This is all you achieved, and you know, I love this like big celebration, so to say, and with other people. It's still for me a challenge to find something that's equally as enjoyable for me, to have that celebration to be like visceral and like deeply felt, you know. But I feel that's what it can be. It's like this celebration for yourself, and then to have like a conscious brotherhood that reflects that back to you, because there is something in it. If it's the mirror reflecting, great. And at some points, it might be really helpful to have that healthy hit of dopamine. Yeah.
So today, man, so every Thursday, my wife and I have a date day. So from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., we've covered a 3-hour window that works for us and our family. And so today we're on a date day. We live on the beach, and there's this like big lagoon type thing. And we're coming up, and Melinda was, my wife was doing a story, and I saw all of these like seagulls, man, just sitting there, like fucking 150 of them. And I'm like, fucking, I'm going to be a kid, man.
Yeah.
And she's doing a video. So I'm just like, she wanted me to be all pretty and stuff. And I just ran for these fucking birds, and just as fast as I could. And they took off, and they all came past this dune. And then I was just running as fast as I could. And I had these goosebumps hitting me, man. It's like, I'm free. I'm free. It was like being at a festival full of Marley, man. It was just like, fuck yeah. And I'm running, and these birds are flying. I'm looking at these birds. I'm like, I'm running as fast as these birds, man. Ah. And then I did this other lap, and they landed. I kept running again. And I came back, and I remember Minnie's like, are you okay? I'm like, that was the best experience of my life. I haven't been so free. And the thing was, man, I didn't take any drugs.
Yeah.
And there was no one watching other than my wife. And I was just able to be my fullest expression, just being a fucking kid, man.
Exactly.
And that's that freedom, man. That's that freedom you're talking about, that liberation.
Yeah.
Of like,
and that full expression.
Full expression, man. Can we find that in the day-to-day? Can we just find these moments where we can just let loose and not worry about the fear of what other people think or the judgment or anything? Yeah. And just embrace life, man.
That is the key that I found in there usually in the festivals, because you don't give a fuck. People don't judge you there, and you can do whatever the fuck you want. You can be as loud and wild and crazy, and that's exactly that part I think that hit home there.
Yeah, man. We do an ecstatic dance on
Yeah.
our retreats. And so we just pump tunes. We take men through all the elements, so earth, wind,
Hmm.
fire, water, and spirit, with music, and for about over an hour. But this is no plant medicine, no alcohol,
Yeah.
nothing, man.
Yeah.
But they're already primed. So like this is like night of day 2. So they've done like maybe 20 something processes and just really let go of belief systems and everything. And then after that, we have a big share circle. And it's like 90% of the men's like, I've never danced like that ever in my life, ever.
Yeah.
And I'm sober. And like
Yeah.
and it's like, you don't need it, dude. You don't need alcohol. You
Yeah.
don't need Marley. You don't need anything, man. You can
Yeah.
access that. That is
Yes.
just you, bro. And so, yeah, man, it's
Exactly.
super liberating to be able to, I remember the first time I went out sober, and it was
Oh man, yeah.
like, because that was like I'm sorry if you can't see me, you can hear me. I've got a bottle in front of me, and so me holding a beer, that was
Yeah.
like armor, man. That was like a brick wall in front of me. The first time I went out, I wasn't drinking. Like, but what do I do with my hands? Like, I felt really so awkward, man. I just like felt so raw and vulnerable. But it was super liberating as well.
Yeah, man.
Because
Totally.
yeah.
I also have like a story with that. You know, I was also physically abused as a child and all that. And I had a really like a lot of pain that I was suppressing in my teens. So I started drinking when I was 13 to just start numbing. So I had a time of like real alcohol abuse. And when I was 19, I had like a rock bottom moment where I started turning things around, started to work out and all that. But then when I was 22, my best friend that I had, he left a year ago or so to move to Berlin, but he actually died because he was drunk and he fell off a rooftop in Berlin. And that was something that hit me so deep. I stopped drinking cold turkey, quit that completely. Like I didn't drink anymore. And I was like dedicating this to him. Every time there was this thing where this was like huge peer pressure. Also like, hey, what you're not drinking, you know? And that's like, I know
Yeah.
over 10 years ago. And it's like, it was so normal to get wasted all the time. So it was like every time I remembered him, I remembered this like commitment I made to myself and I didn't drink. It was such an interesting journey of growth to be in that environment, to be sober, the only guy sober, and the whole place all the time. It was huge, but also like what you learn there. So not be dependent on numbing out and to still have fun. Then I had 8 years of not drinking a drop. I realized, okay, there's this black and white kind of thing. It's not serving me anymore. Yeah, a big one to let
Yeah,
that go.
man. Beautiful. So many men are going to relate to that story, bro.
Yeah.
So many. So many, bro. It's we've been talking about it a lot, man. It's like in Australia, I think Germany would be same, is like alcohol is used as a reward or a celebration. So you
Mm.
reward yourself. You do a hard day's work, so you reward yourself with a beer. It's your birthday, you get a promotion, you get married, you celebrate with alcohol. It's just like yeah, man. So it's especially in Australia, we're raised with that. And so we're going against the stigma and all this stuff when we go sober, and it's rare, man. It's like
Yeah.
rare. It's like it's a rarity. That peer pressure is a real thing, and it's like I remember when I've been sober and stuff, the challenges that I used to get from my old friends, being able to stick true to your values, come back to that compass. That's the biggest thing, and come back to that reference point, and then just being prepared to. This is the thing with your values, so that's where you set your boundaries from.
Yeah.
And so, like those,
Exactly.
like this is the boundary. I'm not drinking, man. If you're gonna keep hanging shit on me about this, I'm out.
Yeah.
Like this friendship can no longer exist, and you got to be prepared to walk away from it.
Oh yeah.
And so yeah, man, the values are so important.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is one more thing I would like to touch on also. It's like also I heard you share in a podcast or a video about it's also something I could really relate, like that time when you had this huge shift inside when you started awakening and all these things. And you have to turn away from so many people, from your old circle of friends. And that was also for me, like I was not lone wolfing, but I was really like, okay, this is my path. There's no one yet on it with me, but I'm still gonna stick to my path. So I also had to turn away from a lot of people back then. And I was also traveling sometimes alone and going through my experiences and my growth. But that is also, I think, what holds a lot of people back. You know, this like comfort of like, I know these friends since school, since blah, blah, blah. That's what keeps them stuck because they don't dare to follow their values, their path, and they stay in the comfort of what everyone else is doing.
Yeah, there's
Happy
this
ending.
analogy I got gifted, and it's you're the center of your universe. I'm the center of my universe. Every listener is the center of his or her universe. And so as you grow or rise in consciousness, awareness, you're like the center of a tablecloth. Every time I hear this,
Yeah.
man, I always think of like the red and white Italian tablecloth. So it's like a square table, red and white thing. And you're the center of that tablecloth. So you just grab the center of that with like two fingers and your thumb, and you start to pick that tablecloth up. So that's like you're the center of that universe, like growing and rising in consciousness. Now there's like plates and bread rolls and salt and pepper and stuff. So some of those things are going to fall off the side, man. And those things that are falling off, like the bread and the butter and that side plate, there are people in your life that aren't going to rise and grow with you. But there is some things that as you rise and grow, there's some relationships that are going to keep rising and growing with you,
Yeah.
accepting you, evolving with you. And they're the people that come with you. Now, what happens when those relationships fall off? Yes, it fucking sucks. It hurts. It's painful, all of that. But what it does, it creates energetic real estate. So that
Mm.
relationship is taking up energy and room within your life. When that's not there, there is now more space. So usually, if you got those mates that are hanging shit on you, or their advice that they're giving you with your relationship is, "Oh, just break up with her," or just and like
Mm.
blaming her, like they're taking up space in your relationship. But if you let go of that relationship, it gives you room to bring in a more fulfilling relationship that's going to be on that same frequency as you, that same level as you. It is an interesting journey because it's so
Yeah.
painful. And then it's one of our primal fears, the fear of banishment, the fear of not belonging. It's a primal
Mm.
fear of like, we don't, because we're humans, we want to connect. And so many people hang on to these relationships that are not serving them, like committed relationships, mateships, in jobs they don't like, and they're getting abused for their boss and that kind of stuff, for that fear. And so, yeah, this is where that aspect of like courage is in the absence of fear, looking at what
Yeah.
you do want in your life, letting go what doesn't serve you, being really clear on what your vision is. Like, who do you want to be? Who do you want to be surrounded by? And just live in integrity that. And then you go through that process of realizing, like you did, man, and like I have, is that you're okay on your own.
Yeah,
You're
exactly.
okay.
Yeah.
And then when you know that you're okay on your own, and you know your values, like, oh man, I'm fucking dangerous now. Because it
Yeah.
doesn't matter if I lose my partner. It doesn't matter if I lose these mates. I'm fucking good. And I'm going to
Yeah.
manifest more in my life. My mum, my sister, and my best friend didn't come to my wedding.
Mm.
And it happened 6 weeks out from our wedding. And it hurt and it sucked. And so this dude was about to be my best man, bro. And so him and I are no longer friends. We don't talk anymore. So um, but they're three pivotal people in my life up until that moment. But everything we're speaking about is like, cool, this is an opportunity. Like, I know that the universe is providing me something, that these three people are taking up space in my life. And it hurt, man. The amount of tears that I had,
Mm.
like for 7 days, was like super emotional, questioning everything, contemplating, do I not get married? Like there was so much going on. But the men's team, like, yes, I'm leading a men's team and I have like 10 coaches, but the coaches held me, the men in the program all held me. I declared like I'm an overwhelm. I could feel depression coming in. I said to one of my coaches, like, dude, I just don't want to get out of bed. I want to hide on the blanket. So he's Italian, so he's like super blunt. And like every morning for 6 days, he sent me a message, yo, motherfucker, are you out of bed? Like just that humor, man. But
Love it.
it felt so good that someone had my back every morning, man, just making sure I was up. So
Yeah.
why I say this is the power of brotherhood, that my business still flourished, my relationship still flourished, my fatherhood still
Yeah.
flourished, and I was able to be a
Yeah.
man and feel all these emotions. That
Mm-hmm.
after 7 days of processing all these emotions, not suppressing them, that I was able to have a tobacco. We're on a lake here, sit down, have a tobacco, and pray. And I'm like, universe, show me, give me a sign why these three people are exiting my life. The very next day, man, this opportunity opened up. I had a discussion with this gentleman, and the discussion turned into, hey man, would you like to come on as an investor to back my mission? And then that
Mm.
was 6 weeks before my wedding. He has literally came on board like 2 weeks ago, man. So it was 105 days later. So the universe showed me that, man, because I asked for it. Show me a sign. I had that conversation that wasn't existent the day before.
Yeah.
And then it played out 3-something months later, or
Mm.
maybe even longer. And so that did not exist because of that room that my sister, my mum, and that mate was taken up in my vortex. Now, if I look at those 3 people, they don't deeply understand my mission and what I'm up to with men's work. They don't understand the capacity of where I want to go. They don't really get it. So it's like, cool, they just dropped off, man. And the funniest thing is we had this, and this is super funny. So one of my dear brothers, he runs these like sunset liberations or full moon liberations. So it's a silent disco. It gets about 400 people on the beach and you dance, and there's like DJs, didgeridoos, and they do prayers and this kind of stuff. So they did a Burning Man theme. So 3 weeks before all of this stuff erupted with these 3 people, there's a Burning Man thing. So it was this big property, and it was a full moon, and it's the first time my wife came to one with me, and they like gave us this bit of paper. And so they're like, okay, we can use the element of 5, death and rebirth, things we do in men's work. And so I'm like, cool, got super intentional, man. It's like, cool, praying, like, what do I want to let go of? So my prayer was, universe, remove anything and everything that's blocking me from this sacred union I'm about to embark on with my future wife. And so I threw it to the fire, and when I threw it, it was so hot, man. I threw it and it curveballed and it missed. So I had to go into the heat, man, pick it up and like put it in. So I worked for it, bro. And then the music was amazing. And then so like I just kept praying to the fire like a teepee. So just connected to this prayer. And then they're like, does anyone want to declare what theirs is? And so all these women have shared it. And they're like, a man, I want a man to share. So I put my hand up, and my bro gave me the mic, and I declared what I'd said. And these 400 people, man, just like, yeah, woo. And the music hit off. It was amazing. And so a week out before, we had a couple of weeks later, it was my Bucks party. And I'm having this discussion about that whole scenario. And this other mate, there was the DJ. It's like, bro, how about that dude, man? When he said about he was going into marriage and all that, I'm like, bro, that was me. And he's like, what? And I'm like, dude, I prayed for all of this to happen, man. That like it was just all these nuances, man. So I actually asked for the universe to clear out this space. I didn't realize it was going to be so horrific and so beautiful at the same time.
Wow, yeah, you gotta be careful what you ask for, yeah.
Man.
Because it might happen.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Yeah. That's a big one also, to really be willing to let go of stuff that might be in the way, you know. Yeah, because it's not easy to let go, like, of some things that we might be attached to also in unhealthy ways, you know.
Yeah, man. Like there's this belief, I know that I have this, and many men that I've talked to, this belief that we have to be super beautiful relationship with our parents. Like it's like, yeah, like you got to have your mum at your wedding. Like, well, where did that belief come from?
Yeah.
Like, did I create that belief, or has that been something that's been instilled in me? Because if it's not my belief, let's explore that. And so I was exploring all these beliefs around family and all this kind of stuff. And where did that come from? And what am I making this mean? And like, yeah, so we can go down a huge rabbit hole with
that. Yeah, I mean, in the end, it's a relationship, you know, also the family relationship. And it's like with an intimate relationship, you can't force it. If it's not aligned, it's not, and you can't really resolve that and grow together. It's just not aligned, and we can't force it. And we can try, but we'll suffer and we'll create 100%. Suffering. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. Yeah, man. That's been a beautiful conversation already. I would love to ask you one more question. From all the impressions you get in all of your work in your men's circle and what you observe in the world, is there any common theme right now that you can like sense, or that stands out, you know, that might be relevant for the collective, for every man or everyone listening? Is there anything that stands out currently that you would like to speak to?
A lot of men that are coming into our membership program at the moment are just, the mind chat is really loud. The through line is like, man, it's just so noisy. And so the mind is so noisy, and it's like, I've got to do this, or like it's like they've got so much on their plate, or it's beating them up, but their mindset is so noisy that they just not taking time for themselves. And so yeah, like if I could just sum it up to that so many men feel like there's so much noise in their mind And so if you got so much noise in them in your mind, you're never going to have stillness. You're never going to have clarity.
Yeah.
You're never going to find direction. Never. If there's all that noise there, how can you be present with your kids and your wife and your children and yourself? And so, yeah, that's the biggest feeling at the moment. And it's like, yeah, man, cool. Well, let's quieten that noise for you, bro. Because once you quieten that noise, you can come up with your own plan. Not listen to all that noise chatter anymore. So yeah.
Yeah, brother. And if I look back on our conversation right now to a lot of things we spoke about, if not everything, like the common key to that is taking the silence, you know, like taking a moment to not make the emotional trigger decision or whatever, or just to stay with where you're miserable or whatever it might be. It all requires to take a moment, take a breath, close your eyes, or do whatever it is for you that helps you to really center yourself and quiet your mind. Maybe a practice or a prayer. And then it's like the point of power where you get to access the power of choice to actually really choose and not to be run by stress, fear, anxiety, conditioning, and to really make that conscious choice.
Yeah, 100%, man. 100%.
Yeah, I've been enjoying this conversation a lot, and I think there's so much gold in it for our listeners. Thank you so much, brother, for being on today.
You're welcome, man. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, looking forward to having another one of these and more to come.
100%. See you guys.
If you want to learn more about Blase and his work, you can find the link to his website here in the show notes. And if you're a man that is struggling with this fear of not being enough, especially also in the bedroom, click the link in the show notes to learn more about having a free clarity call with me, where we can look at your individual situation, what you're struggling with in your relationship and within yourself, find out what your ideal life looks like in this regard, and map out a way to get you there. And I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.